racing, feeling free on that asphalt lane. 4 wide at Talladega, they ain't holding no chain.
Northern front, back, comfort, and we can get biggie. Bars and umbrella song, bunch of paper, it's down the team.
4 cars side by side in a wild thrill ride, with the roar of the engines leaving all doubts behind. As the wheels spin on, chasing dreams we can't hide. NASCAR life where legends never die.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Full Wide Podcast. It's only 2 people right now. As always, it's just we might as well just convert down now. I mean, we're like a 4-car race team converting down to 2 at this point, aren't we, Austin?
It's like Haas.
Well, the Cup Haas only has 1. I mean, Kent may join us. We don't know yet, but Blake is definitely MIA this week, so we'll need Kent to compensate for the red goodness. Austin, how you doing, buddy?
Well, I got some peach cobblers, so I'm doing pretty good.
A news segment this week's got a lot more than last week. I didn't even do one last week because it was hardly anything when we recorded, but as soon as we got done recording, I think the next day is when it was kind of announced that NASCAR is going to be going to 750 horsepower for the short tracks and the road course races next year. So,
and mile tracks.
Well, anything that's not over 1.5 miles, yeah.
Short intermediate, if you want to call it that.
Hybrid track, as they call it. So that's interesting. I'm sure a lot of people are happy about that. I don't think it's going to solve the world's problems by any means, but it's a step in the right direction for them to at least listen to the fans and the drivers and the media members and pretty much everybody else that's not the inner workings of NASCAR.
No, I agree. I think it's a step in the right direction. I don't think it's we'll see if it makes a drop in the bucket or kind of difference, or if there's significant difference. I don't know. It can't hurt at this point. I mean, we've been begging for more horsepower at short tracks for a while to aid with passing. So if you combine that with a good tire setup, I think you could set yourself up for a pretty interesting race. But yeah, I'm all for it. I think they should give them more horsepower at super speedways as well, because I don't think it's fun watching guys run 150 miles an hour at Talladega and Daytona.
Well, to be fair, that's not because they can they have plenty of more speed that they can be utilizing, but it's the choice of the racing style. Usually during the early plate races, you don't see it most of the time in those later plate races. Like at Daytona, obviously we didn't see a lot of conserving because you had a whole bunch of drivers deciding, no, I'm going to go out there and run full on and see what we can do. Even last year in the fall, the fuel conservation wasn't necessarily too crazy for Talladega. Not optimal by any means, but it was nowhere nearly as bad as the spring and the February Daytona race. So,
well, I mean, isn't the horsepower for plate tracks like 550 or something like that?
I mean, you can check it while we're sitting here talking if you want to. But no, it's a step in the right direction, I guess. It's not necessarily, I don't think it's going to be a grand change, but I also think you kind of have to be careful of upgrading the horsepower with these cars because we've already seen how finicky they are with air. You add extra horsepower, it might be prominent, have more flips and whatnot. So you got to take that into calculation too. I mean, you got Ryan Preece flipping at 510 horsepower at plate tracks. What do you think is going to happen when they upgrade it to 750 or even more than that? And to be honest with you, they've not been over a lot of horsepower in a while. They've downscaled it even before this generation of car. They were still downsizing it. Definitely on the short tracks, it's going to kind of facilitate more to your drivers that kind of protect their tire, especially if there's more horsepower. You will have people like Ty Gibbs, for instance, that are young. It's going to burn the things up and going to be early in the tire run, and they're going to need to pit. And you're going to have older drivers like Hamlin or a Larson or a Bell or even an SVG that's really good at tire conservation, obviously, at the road course races. And that's going to play into their favor even more. So I think it doesn't solve a parity, the problem, as Blake always likes to say, even though one day he tried to spell it Parody And we were like, what are you talking about? This ain't no Weird Al Yankovic song that we're talking about here. We're talking about NASCAR. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't think it's going to be the savior of this car by any means, but I also don't think it's, it's what they can do. It's the tools that are provided in the toolbox. It's them not just throwing the toolbox away and starting anew. That's kind of the way that I look at it, if you are a fancy analogy follower. Alrighty, next, this is probably the bigger news out of this week, is that Justin Haley will be out of the 7 ride after the ending of this year. I hate to see that because, first of all, I got to see Justin Haley's first Cup win. I know it was a rain out, blah, blah, blah. That's also Spire's only Cup win so far. So he's the owner of the only Cup win. Now they've had obviously success in different, avenues, trucks. They've went down to Xfinity and, sponsor cars and whatnot. It's tough to see. I think he's really talented. I don't think there's anybody out there that thinks that Justin Haley's not talented. You just look at what he did at Rick Ware Racing in that 51 car after him and LaJoie kind of traded hands, and he was killing it in that car. Then he went to Spire and he just kind of plopped into the moderate results, nothing substantial. And you could argue it's the people around him. You can argue it's Spire's an organization, wasn't, giving him up. He's the third Spire car, if we're being particularly honest here. Michael McDowell has won the 500. Carson Hocevar is probably one of the most prominent up and young coming drivers. You're the third car at Spire, and it's kind of tough, right? So, Austin, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I kind of called it earlier in the year when we got the rumor that Suarez was potentially leaving Trackhouse, and the news became official. And you're looking at the charters and the seats that are going into next year. It's not hard to find the guys that are replaceable, in a sense. And I think Haley is a talented driver. Might not hurt to go back to the Xfinity for a little bit, kind of like Harrison Burton has. Maybe for a year, kind of get that momentum going again and get another ride. When you're at Spire and you're in the third best car, there's not much else you can go. There's not many places else you could go without it being either a lateral move or a step down from where you are. So I think maybe taking a year, going to Xfinity again. I'm sure there will be some seats open after this year, and then trying again. I do hate it for Haley. I think he's one of the most underrated guys at plate tracks, especially Daytona. He always seems to find himself up at the front at plate tracks, and he has you wondering sometimes if he's going to get the win. So I think Jordan Bianchi, he posted that Suarez was the favorite to take the 7, which makes sense. I don't think with Suarez's history at Trackhouse, I don't think he's going to get a step up from Trackhouse equipment. So it just kind of makes sense that Spire is his next location. But yeah, it's sad news for Haley, but hopefully he can maybe take a step back and go to the Xfinity for a year or two and make another run at the Cup Series.
Just look at the results so far this year. 2 top 10s, 1 top 5 for Haley. You compare it to Michael McDowell, which we obviously say Michael McDowell's had a down year for what we consider Michael McDowell, especially coming from front row. We expected him to kind of be the leader, but he has 5 top 10s and 1 top 5, so he outdoes Haley. And Hocevar has 8 top 10s and 2 top 5s. It's tough when your teammates are performing, not necessarily on an elite level. I won't say either of those cars are on an elite level, but they're competitive, especially at particular racetracks. Like Michael McDowell, you can always expect him to be semi-good at the plate races. It kind of depends how it all works out there. And you can also, road courses are always something that's really articulate. You've seen at the Roval, he snuck his way into the top 5 there. And then Hocevar, obviously road course races are not his expertise, especially looking at the Roval and how he basically ended Cindric's chances, if there was a chance that Cindric was going to make it.
I'd say intermediates are probably his money.
But he's been competitive at like in Atlanta, right, in the spring. It looked like he had a car to compete, and of course turned Blaney at that race, and had that whole debacle and everything.
Forgot about that.
Yeah,
It's been a long
and
season.
yeah, it has been multiple DNFs. I think Hocevar's got 9 DNFs this year.
They started off the year hot. I mean, we thought, coming out of Daytona and Atlanta, we were thinking, crap, are Spire going to do something this year? Because McDowell was doing well, Hocevar was doing well. Hocevar's been fairly consistent for most of the year, and I think he's shown the most promise out of the Spire drivers. I think he's definitely going to get a win next year. We thought they were going to be something to contend with, and thought they were going to be top of the owners' points or anything like that. They were getting poles, and they were getting, Hocevar was having some good finishes, especially first half of the year, and they kind of cooled off a little bit. Hadn't really heard anything out of them the last eight weeks or so.
It's kind of painful too for them because I mean the way that I look at the sport now, especially as I'm getting older, is I want to see more teams succeed. Obviously, because it just brings more eyes and revenue to the sport, especially opens more cars up for superstars and whatnot. Everybody talks about star power. NASCAR needs more star power. Well, we got plenty of star power. We just don't have a lot of seats for the star power to go in at this point. I'm not saying NASCAR needs to send 40 charters out and every team needs to have 4 cars or anything like that. It's not. But there's only a certain amount of seats that drivers can sit in, and that's why there's equity in each seat. Why they're worth what teams pay for charters to be worth. I think that Haley could possibly. I mean, I'm not saying this in a mean way. I think he'd probably go back into that Rick Ware racing car and outperform Cody Ware week in and week out. And it's not because I think Cody Ware's a terrible driver. I just think Haley's like just that good. Had a what you would think an all-star crew chief, right, coming out of the gate with Rodney Childers, and then a couple weeks in, like, bye, you're not a good fit. It's probably just been kind of damage control from there. So, definitely hope that he gets in the right place. Just like this next person we're going to talk about, Harrison Burton. It was announced that he will not be back at AM Racing next year. I didn't know if there was really another team or an avenue that he could go towards coming out of this year. I mean, it showed how much upside he has. I talked with the boys on the group chat, and I'm like, given that, Dale Jr. and Jeff Burton are so close, it's a possibility that maybe one of those junior motorsports cars open up for him, especially where you got Zillich going up. That kind of leaves one car, quote unquote, open for another driver. And that would be a really cool opportunity for him. Imagine he goes over there at Junior Motorsports, has a all-star year. I mean, just think he almost made the 8 in the playoffs with an AM racing car, with tier 3 sponsorship, tier 2 sponsorship, and now AM Racing is going to have to do a pretty good search, in my opinion. They're going to have to really look for a good driver because Harrison showed that there's quality in this ride. You had Logano last year on the road course show. Even, Logano's not a road course racer by any means, but he got a top 6, top 7 effort out of the car. It's a good ride. You can deal with it. And I don't know where they're going to go, to be quite honest with you. You could say Suarez, if he doesn't go to the 7, there's too many butts and not enough seats in NASCAR right now. It's just the way it is. I hope Harrison ends up somewhere good for him because it was a great opportunity to watch him race this year, and it was really cool to see him grind week in to week out these performances. So I know you're a big fan of him here.
I like Harrison. I think he's got a lot of potential. Yeah, I think it was just kind of unfortunate that he got put in the equipment he did. I think he's starting to show what he can do. And you talked about it. AM Racing, they're not the best. It's definitely not on the same level as Gibbs or Childress or JRM. It's not definitely not on their level when it comes to top tier equipment. But he's making it work, getting good finishes, consistently finishing well. We thought he was in the running for winning a few of these races. I'd love to see him in a JRM car going into next year. I think that would launch him into the stratosphere for what he needed to do. And I think it would really prove to us too. Give him a top seat like the 88. Man, I mean, if he can't do anything with that, then it's like, okay. But if he can perform in that top level equipment, I think he's going to be a hot ticket for someone.
The way that I mean, I've been seeing it, he brings good sponsorship. The way that I've seen, because Dex Imaging stayed with him after, it was a sponsor at the 21 for the Wood Brothers, but they followed him down to the Xfinity Series. Dead On Tools, I believe that's either his sponsor and AM Racing sponsor, but I mean, it wasn't, Dead On Tools wasn't, the sponsor before, obviously. So it's like, you'd imagine it's Harrison bringing that sponsorship over. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, internet, that's fine. But I imagine that between him and Junior, with his last name, he probably can gather that up. But we've also seen, Quapple is going to be splitting a ride next year with Zilich due to quote unquote sponsorship issues. First of all, that makes it seem like Bass Pro's going to take a step back, which is not good for the sport. Hopefully they remain at least in the cup level. They don't completely just leave the sport. That would be traumatic. You see Pro, you think of Martin Truex, you think of Austin Dillon, even if you don't like him. Even before that, I mean, just they've been a prominent sponsor throughout the years. I mean, even to the days of Earnhardt, the Gold 3 car, the Gold 3 Bass Pro Shop car that he used to run occasionally. You don't want to see him go, so hopefully they do stay around for a little bit longer, even on like the track level, because they sponsor, a couple of races a year too. So it's not like they're some small thing. They're prominent in the sport. So you lose a sponsor like that, it's going to take a lot of different sponsors to even touch what Bass Pro does for the NASCAR Cup, Xfinity, even the Truck Series. So I guess the last bit of news I got is it was actually announced today that Matt DiBenedetto will not be returning at Viking Motorsports for the rest of the year. The next 3 races will be driven by Connor Mosack. Interesting choice. I'll leave it at that with the driver. He's had decent performances in the trucks throughout the year. Brings a lot of revenue to the table. You can say you hate it for Matt because he's a good Christian guy. He's been very, very outspoken about his faith, even given, some of the recent events that's gone on in the world. Have been vocal and supportive in regards to certain avenues, and wish him the best, obviously. Hopefully this might mean that he has something lined up for next year, maybe better, because it kind of mirrors the Honeycutt situation when he was talking about kind of going to Toyota, and then Nice is like, nope, you're not going to run for the rest of the year over here, so find you another ride kind of deal thing. But I hate it. Me and Blake were actually sponsors back when he was on the 38, which was Viking, but it was kind of like a subsection of Ryan Sieg Racing, RSS Racing. So hate to see that go, because we were a part, small, very small part of that sponsorship at Charlotte one year. But yeah, it
That was the year
definitely.
you had sun poisoning, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was terrible.
You had to
That
wear
was
jeans.
terrible. Yeah, jeans and a long like Adidas jacket, and I had like my skin was bubbling off. It was like it was bubbles. It looked like I was like part frog or something. It was weird. Honestly, and I'm being just completely transparent here as a fan, is it's not a good look on Viking and on majority of their social media platforms. Has been quite negative. The fans talking down and unfollowing and whatnot. Because, I mean, I'll be honest with you, Matt DiBenedetto kind of has a cult following, and I don't mean that in like a terrible sense. You could say Kyle Busch has a cult following as well, Rowdy Nation. They're very passionate.
I mean, I've never been a big Matt DiBenedetto fan. Just don't have the connection to him that you and Blake do.
I think Kent
Obviously, I
likes
don't.
him too.
Yeah, can't too. I mean, obviously, I don't hate the guy, but I don't know. I don't know if it's a Viking decision towards him, or if it was a mutual agreement of to part ways, or if it was sort of similar to what we saw with Nice Motorsports earlier this year. Does he already have a ride in place? And Vikings like, all right, peace out. A lot of fuzziness around the whole scenario, but I hope he gets a good ride. I hope it's a step up from where he's been past with Viking. He did fairly decent with Viking Motorsports equipment. He even had a hot foot during one of the road course races there. So, I just hope he gets a better ride, and I don't know if he'll get the shot to come back into the Cup Series or not. It may just be he has to be an Xfinity guy for a while. Just because, as you mentioned earlier, there's only so many seats and not enough butts to fit in them. So, I don't know.
I think one thing, if there was any piece of advice I could ever give to Viking, is probably the statement that they put out could have been written a little bit better. It was kind of, it's like when you read an email and it's just like stagnant, like what you would see in a newspaper. Just informative, that's it.
We would like to thank Matt for his contributions throughout our inaugural season. He played a meaningful role in establishing the foundation of this team, and we wish him the best.
You could have just done a little bit more effort, because if you look at 90% of their posts on social media, it's usually him posting from either his account and then tagging them to be like collaborators. I mean, 90% of what's posted is reels of him. That's kind of maybe the name value that they were trying to get out of him. Former Cup driver, almost won a Cup race. Denny Hamlin kind of stole it from him, so to speak. Yeah, it's tough to see. Hopefully, he ends up somewhere. Maybe he gets in a colleague truck, gets in the truck series again. Maybe he drives, modifieds or something. Just keep him in motorsport somewhere.
People are speculating that maybe Mossack was cheaper for Viking. I don't know.
That's possible. He brings money. I will say one thing about Matt, though, is he is extremely marketable guy, because he has like a good personality when it comes to like funny stuff. Like I remember the Savannah Bananas reel that he come out
That
with
was a sick
him.
car scheme too.
It was a sick car scheme, and the dang reel that came out with it, the marketing, it just seemed kind of genuine compared to like, hey, I'm being sponsored by, I don't know, what's the pouch of tobacco? Is it Grizzly that started sponsoring Ty Dillon? They do good activation at the track, but you don't see like any like reels or anything that was fancy when that was announced. That was just kind of like, it's a sponsor. There wasn't much activation in regards to the driver. Butterbean's announced to be in the 11 car for the rest of the year. For Colleague, obviously looking like that lines up for a pretty good truck ride situation for him, given that Colleague's going to have a 5-truck team coming into next year.
Like a dog.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to have a dang powerhouse having 5 trucks. Either they're going to be powerhouse, or there's going to be like 2 trucks that are really good and 3 of them are going to be like stagnant, because there's just so many resources that they have to use. But good for him. Happy for him. Obviously got that top 10 at Kansas not too long ago in the Xfinity Series. ARCA champion this year. Pretty much sealed the deal before he even had to race the last race. All they had to do was start the race, and he won the championships. They kicked butt this year right out of the gate. Won Daytona and never let off the gas, just kept on going. So that's a guy that you definitely need in the sport. Passionate, comes from the modifieds, brings a different fan base. People for ARCA are going to be following him, but most of those are kind of got eyes already on the sport. But most of those Cars Tour modified drivers, those are the ones that are going to kind of transition over to watching NASCAR. So good for him. Well, we will talk about the great old racing that we've seen this week. Dang, the Xfinity race was pretty fantastic. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Obviously, there was no truck race this week. Sad. I always like seeing the trucks race. But the Xfinity race put on a heck of a performance. There was nice battling at the end with Zilich and Eric Almirola. And then you had Jesse Love and Sanchez going at it on the track, then off the track. You got Sam Mayer in the back of the video go, wow. It was a fantastic race, a lot of drama. And that's kind of what the playoffs set up. If that's, it kind of articulates, it kind of goes to these moments, these big moments. And it just worked out where Eric Almirola is moving on in the top 4 of the owner's points. Obviously not the Cup points, because he's a part-time driver. But with that performance and him winning, he is going to be driving the next few races. I think Justin Bonsignor was actually supposed to drive a couple of these races, but they made the executive decision, now that they got a dog in the fight, that they're going to bring the veteran, especially to Martinsville, given that he is a beast there. in the last little bit. He's won 3 of the last 4 Martinsville Xfinity races.
Man, yeah, I thought it was a good race. I didn't get to catch all of it, but I watched a good portion. Yeah, I mean, Almirola just had a really dominant car, but really it came down to the 3. In reality, it came down to Zilich, it came down to Love, and it came down to Almirola. Those were kind of the 3 that were contending there towards the end, and then ultimately it was Zilich and Almirola. But man, they were sliding around that place the last like 30 laps. I mean, it was awesome racing, and it's sort of the back and forth that went on there for a while between Almirola and Zilich. But Almirola's still proving he's still got it, man. 40 years old, he's still out there showing these young guns how it's done. It's amazing how much better he does when he doesn't have Austin Hill in his right rear. But that's just a conversation for another day. Yeah, I liked the race. I thought it was good.
I mean, I think it was better than the Cup race for the most part. Just overall racing throughout the whole race. Of course, Allgaier qualified really well on the pole. Not a shocker there. Allgaier's really good at Las Vegas, and he had a pretty good day. I mean, he didn't have a terrible day. He kind of hung around, did what he had to. He just doesn't need to make mistakes at this point, at this juncture, because when it comes around to Phoenix, he's going to be one of the guys to beat for the championship regardless. So just doesn't need to wreck out at Martinsville or Talladega, and I think he's got a good shot of just making it on points. But yeah, it was really cool to see Almirola and Zilich. They battled respectably, but yet hard. That's really cool to see. I really appreciated that. And of course, the other storyline is, Jesse Love was kind of competing with Zilich, and then he fell back, and then him and Nick Sanchez got, into a little skirmish. They were hitting each other a little bit. Obviously, they're affiliated. RCR is affiliated with them. That's like their team that they're mostly with the ECR and whatnot. So it's kind of, it must sting a little bit for that. Sanchez has done a phenomenal job this year. We've talked about it multiple times. We were coming out of the truck series. He moved up 1 year kind of deal thing, and just it's been putting solid performances for Big Machine. We obviously knew the car could perform, given that Parker Kligerman ran that car really well last year. This is the first time you've ever really seen him in the top 5 really, competing. Love didn't like the way that he was raced. He vocalized that on pit road. He physically showed it on, pit road with a little bit of it's like a shove, but it was like a punch in the chest. It's kind of the most weirdest transition I've ever seen. It looked like it was just going for the push, and then it made a fist, and then pushed off. I imagine that hurts, because anytime you push off something with your fist, it doesn't feel good. I remember doing the knuckle push-ups. They're supposed to work out a little bit more different muscles than your standard push-ups. And gosh, man, that thing's hurt.
It reminds me of the time where Logano and Hamlin got into it on pit road, and as Logano's about to walk away, he just gives a little slap to Hamlin. And Hamlin's like, "Hey, wait a minute, come back here."
Yeah, Logano's been a couple of skirmishes throughout his career, I do believe.
Just a few.
Just a few. Kind of, imagine him just being such a lovable guy that he wouldn't get in any fights, but things happen,
smile.
I guess. Yeah, that smile. I mean, it's cool to see a fight. I'll be straight up. It is not really a fight, it's a disagreement, but it's just cool to see that, because you don't see it anymore, because everybody's so PR trained.
The last one was what? Chastain and Gregson?
Yeah, there's probably a few more. That was an actual fight for sure, though. That 100%.
That was great.
That was a KO is what that was. That was just done.
He did get to throw a punch back.
I think the bowl cut, I think that's what really threw Noah G off. The aerodynamics of that haircut just really... Oh my goodness. But yeah, that's probably the last big disagreement. I guess earlier in the year, you can kind of say the Corey Heim and Lane Riggs at North Wilkesboro. They didn't really physically do anything, but there was definitely the disagreement on pit road where Heim walked all the way down there. I was there to watch that, and everybody was hoping like, somebody punch somebody.
Basically, Heim was just like, "Screw you, dude."
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's like, you can't drive like that. And Lane's like, "Watch me." No, it's it's definitely good for the sport. When you think of the sport, one of the top 10 clips that you always see is the Bobby Allison, Donnie Allison, and Kelly Yarborough haymakers on each other, and Tony Stewart throwing his helmet about 19,000 times. There ain't no telling how many helmets that Tony Stewart's went through in his career. Just throwing friggin' things. Great race, great performance for Eric Almirola. That team car's been on a rail this year. It seemed like it doesn't matter what track he goes to. Last year with that 20, it was like he'd go to Martinsville and perform really well, but you wouldn't see him at the mile and a half go crazy like this if he made a start. So, and it's really cool to kind of show the flowers a little bit because Eric Almirola, I feel like he didn't get a fair shot in the Cup Series, and I don't mean that in a mean way, because obviously he was at Stewart-Haas racing when Kevin Harvick was performing at a high level. It just seems that it just wasn't a good lineup for him, and this JGR with Joe Gibbs and this Xfinity car has just been lights out for him.
Yeah.
And you kind of hate to see it because you got people like, it's kind of funny because looking at last year, I did not like Sam Mayer at all. Like, just something about him rubbed me the wrong way. But this year, when he's at Haas, it's just like, it's not like a whole different person, but I respect him a lot more. And then seeing him like making that funny face on pit road, it wasn't even necessarily a cheer. I don't know what kind of face it was. I took a picture of it, screenshot it, and then like zoomed in on it and sent it to the group chat. Yeah, and it had me dying. Yeah, it's I think Las Vegas, man, might be in my top 10 favorite tracks of the year. I'm not even gonna lie to you. It's definitely got to be up there. Yeah, I can't see it because it's so puzzly looking right now, but I'm sure it looks good on your end. But yeah, it's I will blow it up. I will find a screen capture of it and blow it up on the podcast if you guys are watching on YouTube. Yeah, hands up in the air, just crazy face going. It's great. So looking forward to see what Sam Mayer does for the rest of the year. I think he's obviously got a shot to be in the championship four.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he can outperform at Phoenix because I think Zilich and anyone that's in a JRM car, if they're in that top four, Phoenix are going to be hard to beat because their cars are on a rail most of the time when it comes to Phoenix. If it's not them winning it, I could see Eric Almirola winning it and this car in second, right? Kind of like how Riley Herbst won the race last year, but Allgaier won the championship. It's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. The points are still, pretty tight in the Xfinity Series. Truck Series are even tighter going into Talladega, which we'll talk about. But yeah, there's not a lot of other storylines that I can really think about with the Xfinity Series. Definitely in my top 5 of Xfinity races this year, and there's been a lot of good racing. You take the racing product, the Xfinity Series, and compare it to Cup. 80% of the time, 70% of the time, the racing portion of the Xfinity Series seems to just be a little bit better. And, Zilich is having that Jimmy Johnson style year. But yeah, I still think the Truck Series is my favorite, though. Austin, man, what a weekend. Not only for racing, but for Wilkerson's Catering. Kyle and the family have been running a schedule that makes the NASCAR playoffs really just seem like a vacation at some points.
Yeah, man, they were double booked on Friday night. Then they were up early on Saturday. They were judging that barbecue competition for the Masonic home for children at Oxford. Then they turned right around and handled a bridal luncheon the same day.
And that's not even it. Sunday, they were right back at it at Pine Ridge Cornhole, slinging smash burgers for the whole tournament crowd. Didn't even have time to take pictures because they were instantly sold out of those things.
Now they're gearing up for a whole hog competition this weekend for the American Legion. I just don't know how they keep that pace, man. They got the pace of Heim and Zilich combined.
It's because they're just on a different level, man. The pure playoff grind is not only going on the NASCAR series, but it's also going for the catering. If you need catering that works as hard as any race team, Western Catering is definitely in the booth. And we thank you for always supporting us. And now we have Kent here, finally. Hey, you guys.
What's up, guys? What's up?
Go Dogs.
Sick 'em.
Y'all were sweating. Y'all were sweating this week.
Only for 1.5.
I never doubted for a second what you mean.
Kent
No, I
did.
doubt it. I absolutely doubt it.
All you had to do was pull up Kent's Facebook page.
We're going to be down this
Absolutely.
weekend, too.
Nah, this weekend we're gonna win by 4 touchdowns. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Are y'all undefeated this year?
No.
I don't want to talk about that, Cole.
Was it Roll Tide that got y'all?
Don't cuss like that. We are a family-friendly show. Ain't no use for filthy language here. There's no use for that. My Sundays have been busy lately, but this past week I was able to catch the majority of this one. And anyways, it was,
Until the remote went through the TV, right?
well, I was
The
watching.
remote kind of mirrored William Byron in a way.
Yeah, that's just, it's just bad luck. That's just bad luck.
It made me mad, too, bro, because I picked him.
Yeah, that is the just sheer awful luck. I don't get it. I don't. Anyways, he gets that. I knew they didn't even have the camera on him, and I hear, the definator, go. I saw your Sermonator shirt, so I had to. I don't know. I was playing on words. I just was like, oh, we got a big crash in turn 4. I was like, I don't know how, but it's William Byron. I don't know how.
Door
it's
hanging
him.
off.
They show the 24, what's left of the 24 car, and I was like, my gosh, I hope he's all right. That was a heck of a lick.
I walked out to use the bathroom because I think Larson just took the lead just a little bit, and I was like, all right.
Because Byron got loose and just straight up gave it to him. And I thought, he's probably not going to run back down. So when he said caution for a big crash in turn 4, I was wondering, did Byron get loose again and not catch it this time?
In a way,
no, it was something entirely altogether. Well, he caught it. No, he caught it all right. He caught it.
I come back and I just see William Byron in the pit box, and I'm like, how did that happen? I'm like, is this a Kyle Busch situation? Like just be out, cleared, and then just trashed? And yeah, I kind of, in a way. Shout out Kyle Busch, by the way. Top 10 this week. Started 32nd and drove all the way to 8th with Andy Street.
I don't know if y'all have talked about Cole. Have you gotten on NASCAR 25?
No, I don't have a console. I'll be getting it maybe on Steam.
You're waiting for it to come out on Steam.
Yeah, probably.
They did Kyle Busch dirty. He's like lower 80s. What is he, like at 83 or so?
He's something, yeah.
Yeah. With how he's been lately, I get it, but at the same time, it's weird seeing anything less than a 95 next to Kyle Busch's name. What he's done for the bulk of his career. So
we kind of don't start this off talking about, obviously, about the big milestone win, but it's just like that instance was just absolutely wacky. It's happened before. It's not something that's never not happened before, but in the modern age, it's something that you don't see that often.
And then also for it to happen to somebody who is at that stage of contending for a championship, when it happens in mid-season, it's like, man, that's bad luck. All right, rebound next week. Now it's like, you got 2 shots. If you're William Byron, you have 2 shots to overcome that. Now, fortunately, he's only the first one out on points. He could win either of the next 2 races. I don't know if it's likely, but he could. And then, you look at some of the guys in front of him and wonder, all right, could he make up some points? And with stage points being a thing, he can make all that up in 1 week. But it's still, you don't want to be there. And so, that was just wild. That was crazy. But you're talking about the milestone win. I mean, Denny Hamlin, 60. 60 in and of itself as a number. But then also you look at, that ties Kevin Harvick for 10th all time. And then, you're talking about 10th all time and the names that puts him with. So cool.
I just want to go back to the whole William Byron wreck thing. Ordinarily, it wouldn't make me mad, but this week it did make me mad because I picked them for the competition. And I was sitting pretty with the first place. People can blame the spotter all they want for not communicating that to Byron. You guys know this as well as I do. 99.9% of the time when a driver is going to pit, I've never seen a driver not do that. Letting, just in case it wasn't relayed to the spotter saying, hey, I'm pitting this lap. So, people can say, oh, it's the spotter's fault. They won't. No, it still falls on Dylan too. because he didn't wave his hand at the window, never once showed Byron. They showed him down the backstretch, didn't do a single wave or nothing. Yes, you can blame it on the spotter, but part of that responsibility falls on Dillon too, just to make sure.
Well, one thing that I will say is I listened to Door Bumper Clear this week, and I felt like it's obviously a good week to listen to them, because if there's anybody that knows what's going to go on with this, it's them. And I also happened to come across not only, William Byron's camera and audio of in-car, but also Ty Dillon's as well. And Ty Dillon, when he crossed the finish line, start finish line, whatever, they told him, hey, we're going to pit, and they are relaying this. And there is one thing that was said when they were coming into the corner, is that Dillon's going to be running this lane. And the way that Freddie Kraft, he said, this isn't necessarily how it works, right? Because I was zoned in on Bubba at this point. I wasn't looking around at the other spotters. But they kind of do a hand motion up there, because they obviously can't talk to each other up there, because if you've been to a race, I don't care where you are, it's loud as frick. Taken from someone that doesn't wear headphones at all when I go to a race, I know this. And they're not cued into each other's communications. Like, that's not how it works. There is a hand motion that refers that they're going to pit, but it also means kind of what lanes they're going to be running. And then Byron's spotter comes on and says, hey, Ty Dillon's going to be running this lane, like 3-4, 2-4 lane, whatever it was. And Freddie said it could have been a possibility where he was trying to tell them that he was pitting, but it got relayed as he's running this lane when you come by, because obviously he's lap traffic. Sometimes they're like, hey, we're going to run this lane so you can get by us. And that's not necessarily what happened. I agree that the wave probably would have transcended all that. 100% it would solve that issue. 100%. And there's no way that you can argue against that. That's just common sense. But they had that miscommunication. And then after, there's like a little bit of dead silence. And then you hear like the spotters talking up there. And yeah, it's like, it seemed like there was a miscommunication of some sort, the way that it came across. So I just add that because I listened to that podcast, and on top of that, also did the in-car to kind of just do a little extracurricular research there to make sure, kind of knew what I was talking about.
Bad luck is bad luck at the end of the day. It was nothing egregious from Ty. It's not like he just went out there and wrecked the guy on purpose. He messed up, and it really just falls into the hands of a lot of folks. And regardless of whose spotter it was, people made mistakes. William Byron has to pay the price for it, and it's a bummer, but it's a part of the sport, and it's just part of racing. It is what it is. That's nothing. I mean, there's really nothing that you can do about it. It's part of the reason that I want to get rid of this current playoff format. It's very unforgiving when you have bad luck. A lot of consistency leading up to it doesn't allow you to rebound. It just is what it is. Now you could say, okay, he could have that, walk off moment by winning at Martinsville and winning his way in. Sure. But I would just rather have. Now, he would still be in contention with the way he's running the playoffs without this format. But at the same time, I would just prefer see a format that rewards, that shows a little bit more grace when something like this happens.
I agree with you. Even though I pull for a driver who has benefited from this, from the system, you're right. You're 100% right. It's not forgiving, and the moment should not hurt William Byron's chances of winning a championship because of a bad race. He has every chance to, but the thing is, man, you got Talladega this week. I know Byron's usually pretty good at plate tracks, but you and I and Cole all know this. It's a crapshoot at best. You might finish well. You might get caught up in a pile of 13 cars in turn 3 and 4. And then you're even more at a deficit coming into Martinsville, which if he makes it to Martinsville, he's got a shot, but we also know this, Hendrick doesn't do as well in the fall. So, it's just, he's kind of coming in at a little bit of a deficit, which I hate to see, because he's the regular season champ for a reason. Like, he's, yes, he hasn't led a lap really since this week. Since until this week, he hasn't led a lap since August. So he's been on kind of a slump, but, it just really, it just really hurts. He's coming in negative points. Yeah, he's not in a, like you said, a couple stage wins, he's back in it. But the thing is, we're at the stage of the playoffs where you can't have that kind of error.
Yeah, and I'm not saying get rid of playoffs altogether. That's not what I'm saying. I don't know that that's necessarily the answer. Yeah, would I like an old fashioned system of just the regular, just hey, look, start to finish? I would love that. That may not be what would be the most popular, but I do think that there is another solution that rewards. And like I said, Byron probably would be, it would be to his detriment this year. He has very much struggled this year in the playoffs since August. But who knows? Maybe his team has been relying on, you know, showing up in the later rounds and not necessarily, giving their all earlier on. I don't know. There's a lot of speculating you could do. What were you saying?
I think also we're seeing where Charlotte and Darlington hurt a little more because
That's 5 extra points. That's a good point. Yeah, that's
Charlotte,
10. It would be 10.
yeah, Charlotte, he led a good chunk of the race and then lost it right there at the end, and then Darlington and Spring dominated the whole thing, and then here comes Hamlin, comes out of nowhere. By the way, can we start giving Hamlin the nickname of the closer? We gave it to Harvick, but it sure feels like this year he's been a closer.
Let's get through Phoenix first. And then we'll debate that. I am as big of a Hamlin hater as exists. Y'all both know that. If there's two drivers I can't stand, it's Hamlin and Logano. Y'all know that. But I'll say this about Hamlin. Seeing his raw emotion for the milestone that he hit, but also knowing the importance of him doing this, even in light of what he's going through with his father. And he got out of the car and he was like, man, I'm not going to give the fans crap today. Like, that was just awesome. I'm just grateful for y'all being here and making the sport what it is. That was a really cool moment. I think that's a cool moment for him. I think he won a lot of fans over. There are a lot of fans that are like, yeah, we see right through that. I'm not any more of a Hamlin fan today than I was before. But that was really cool. And it shows how much this sport, or how much it means to thrive in the sport the way that he has for as long as he has. Austin, was it you that texted the group and said, or maybe it was someone else that said,
It was me.
It was you, Cole. So 10% of his wins have come this season. Yeah, that's insane. That's insane. And then to consider, I mean, how old is the man?
44 years old. He was born
So he's
November
44.
18th, 1980.
Jeff Gordon retired when he was 45. And now, yeah, Jeff Gordon did more in his career, won a lot more races, and he's in a different era of the sport too. But Jeff Gordon wasn't winning 6 races when he retired in the season. In 2014, he won 4 races. And in 2015, he did compete in the Final Four. But to just be as this dominant, and Jeff Gordon wasn't doing that. Jimmy Johnson wasn't doing that the year before, or when he was. I don't even know how old Jimmy Johnson is, or how old he was when he stepped away from full time racing in NASCAR. But I don't know that Jimmy was doing this when he was 44 years old. It's rare to see somebody kind of like Kevin Harvick did towards the end of his career, just hit this last surge, where it's just he still has the talent, and you don't lose the talent, but still has the physical ability. But on top of that, has a whole lot more wisdom and experience, and it's just like he's just thriving and just peaking right now. So yeah, I think if he wins a championship, it's this year, possibly next year. But if he doesn't do it this year or next year, I don't know if it ever happens, because he might hit a wall like Harvick did, and just all of a sudden it just shuts off. Anyways, but it's cool to see. It's good for the sport. And this past weekend, I think, really showed a little bit more of a human side of him, and that was cool.
My man took my statistic away from me that I actually figured out by myself. Like, what the heck?
I gave the wrong credit at first, but I made sure to credit it for you. That was not my statistic.
I legit looked and I was like, what? I mean, simple math here. He's won 60 wins. He's won 6 wins this year. That's 10%. It's like, that's wild in itself. Yeah, it's been phenomenal to watch him. I seen him win in Martinsville earlier in the year in the spring. That was really cool to see. Man, he's at a different level. I think just the next gen car really fits his driving style. I think he just has mastered it like nobody else knows how to. When you had veterans like Kevin Harvick that struggled with it, Kyle Busch has struggled, more noticeably with it now. You got someone like Hamlin that it might possibly further his career if he wanted it to. I know that he said he's kind of looking, 2 years, give or take, is kind of what he's looking for. If he keeps performing, even at like half of this level, he wins 3 races a year. Takes 2 years, you could, viably be like, part-time gig somewhere. Definitely a possibility. And he does a lot for the sport. Obviously, as an owner, I know that's definitely an avenue he could take. He could take a car and do like a part-time ride at 2311. He wants to drive for his own organization at some point, I'm sure. I'm sure that would be any team owner. I mean, Jimmy Johnson's done it. Junior's done it. That's kind of like a staple. And hopefully it's still around after, December. I know it's that's litigation and everything. And there's a point where you might get a decision in December, but the way that courts work, I am totally a novice with the judicial system here, but most of the time things get pushed off. One case ends, oh, well, we're going to move it up to another court. That's how the judicial system works. So we will see how that all ends up. This could be something that goes through years, which, if it does, not good for Front Row because they don't have the financial backing that a 2311 does. That would be to the detriment of them. So I hope that they eventually just settle it like men. Sit in a room, figure out what the problem is, come to at least an agreement, work on something, and just say, this is better for the betterment of the sport. This is past petty arguments at this point. We had 2 other people have major issues with this race. So that's the positivity of Byron. Blaney definitely has the short end of the stick, blowing the tire out and just absolutely clobbered the car. Couldn't even barely drive it to pit road. So he was done. That puts him at the worst point situation, I do believe, at the bottom. Logano's just a little bit above him, but Logano came in really below him. And then on top of that, you also had Chase Elliott had the fiasco issue on a pit road. And plus, on top of that, getting into a little bit of that contact in the field, it really slowed that race car up. He was coming back up and then kind of got stagnant around that, I think, at 18th to 21st position and just could not move up.
Hats off to all the Hendrick guys. They really seem to show up with some speed this weekend. Obviously Byron and Larson had speed. Bowman was up there in the mix. It was, it was really encouraging to see those Chevrolets run well. Which, there's a part of us that knew once they hit, one of these 1.5-mile tracks again, that they would. What's crazy though is that's the last 1.5 of the season. That's it for the intermediate. It's over now. Gotta make do with what's left. And what do we know about what's left? We know Talladega is a crapshoot, and then the last 2 short tracks have lately been pretty dominated by Ford. So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting.
Phoenix is more like a hybrid than a short track, though, isn't it? It's kind of like
It's a
that
hard track, man.
Yeah, it drives like a short track.
There's not many short tracks you can go onto the apron, though, like they do at Phoenix.
Yeah. But the sweeping corners, yeah, no, for sure. No, the way that the corners kind of sweep, and then just with as little banking as they have, especially in 1 and 2, makes it drive a lot more like a short track. It's a short track, but it's got more lanes. I bet, really the best you can compare it to, honestly, is maybe like North Wilkesboro, where you can run high and you can run low, just kind of wherever your car's handling the best, you kind of try to go to find that lane. You got like you said, cars clipping the apron, running well below the yellow line, and then you got some that try to just keep it high and keep that momentum up the whole lap, and that'll be interesting. But Talladega's what's next.
Yeah, I think New Hampshire kind of a little bit of similarity in regards to like the size.
For sure.
So
for sure.
that's the one
Yep.
that kind of, like, when I think of it, it's like the shape's different, though, because it's
Right.
just got that unique shape to it, and that's what really makes that track phenomenal racing. I mean, I know a lot of people love Homestead, and I love Homestead too. I think that it's going to be a great championship race next year. But I never really had a problem with Phoenix either, because it's just, I like the way the track drives. That's a personal thing. Definitely the spring race usually is kind of lackluster, but it always seems like the fall race always brings out just the best racing. So,
I mean, last year it was Blaney trying to chase down Logano the last couple laps. That was fantastic watching those two go at it.
and then you also had in the Xfinity race, you had Allgaier on that, have to defend a spot on that last restart, had the damaged race car. Him and Riley Herbst got into it a little bit. Herbst wins the race, but Allgaier wins the championship. I mean, it was great racing there too. So
Hocevar wrecking the entire field that 1 year, the Truck Series.
ruling Corey Haim's chances of the championship. The playoffs kind of, I know that there's some people that don't like it, but obviously the playoffs kind of helped a little bit of the story here. Las Vegas, if you look at the poll, I think it ended up being 77%, 23 no for the race, and that puts it just outside the top 10, I think, for the Gluck. Good mile and a half race, though. I enjoyed it. It's cool to see that we're seeing more history. We obviously Corey Haim passed Greg Biffle's record, and imagine if Denny Hamlin does win the championship this year, and he doesn't win until he gets back to Phoenix. He wins at Phoenix. That's number 61. He passes Harvick, and he also gets the championship attached to it. Talk about a storyline for NASCAR. So are y'all ready for some Talladega this weekend? Some Talladega nights? See some more cars going across the finish line backwards. Hopefully, not too terribly wrecked this time, but we'll see what happens. They should do a bet, just over or under. Are they going to throw a caution on the last lap? Are they going to race back to green, or are they going to throw a caution? Be like, I put $1 million on red. See what happens. We have all 3 series running once again. Thank goodness. Truck Series at Talladega is always interesting, especially the way that they draft. So I'm looking forward to that. Number 1, Brett Holmes. The number 7, J.J. Yeley making a truck start. Number 6, Mr. Daytona himself was going to win Daytona. Norm Benning making his return. Another fan favorite is making his return. Number 16, Chris Wright. Number 22, Jason White. Frankie's making his return from injury. Be back in the 33 after, falling off the ladder and having that rib injury. He'll be back. And then the 75, Parker Kligerman will be back in the truck. That's definitely a favorite to watch. He's usually really good at those plate tracks. Then the Xfinity race, we got the number 5 of Cesar Barcarella. Number 07 of Nick Lentz. Butterbean, Brandon McQueen making that start in the 11, like we said. Next 3 races he'll be a part of. Number 14 of Garrett Smithley. The 19 of Eric Almirola. He's going to be racing the last few races for that 19 car, given that he is now probably the front runner, honestly, in that owner's points. 32 of Jordan Anderson. 35 of David Starr. Talk about a name from the past, David Starr. 45 of Josh Williams. 53 of Joey Gase. 70 of Leland Honeyman, who's been really good at the plate tracks this year. Number 91 of Mason Maggio, and then Connor Mosack, number 99. No cars will miss that race, but there's a ton of open drivers, so that's pretty cool. Up Series, we have Mr. Chromehorn himself, number 33, Austin Hill. Number 62, Anthony Alfredo. Number 66, another name from the past, Casey Mears will be making the start at Talladega. And then at the end, the number 78 of BJ McLeod. Well, Kent, Talladega, I mean, there's not much history that goes along with that track at all, is there?
Let's skip me. And,
Okay, sounds good. Austin, what you got this week for
Lord. So Talladega, one of the most historic venues, and you really, not to get too much into what you're going to be sharing about, but I don't think I had a true appreciation for it until I saw it in person. It's just absolutely a phenomenal venue. Everything about it is just cool. It's just awesome. it kind of speaks for itself. I mean, not just all the history that's taken place there. I think of Dale Jr., who won 4 consecutive races in a row there. And just to give you an idea for how hard that is, look for the last guy who was able to finish 4 consecutive races in a row. I mean, it is absolutely insane with just the amount of wrecks and everything that takes place. But, in Austin, you may have visited this place that I'm about to allude to. Actually, Cole, you may have too. I don't know. But it was kind of close to Southeastern. Talladega, when it came onto the NASCAR schedule, replaced a local North Carolina dirt track. Can y'all tell me the name of that dirt track?
I've never been to the track, but I know of the track that you're speaking of.
So, and
Briefly.
it was Occoneechee. And so now it's a state park. And you can go, Allie and I've been a couple of times, and you can literally walk around the trail. I mean, it's all grown up with trees. There's a couple of old cars sitting out there kind of for show. The concrete grandstands are still there. The flag stand is still there for that matter. I mean, it's just really neat. You walk up, there's still a couple of posters from way back in the day. To think about when Talladega came onto the scene, and that history meshing up with the history of the likes of Richard Petty winning races on a track like Occoneechee Speedway in central North Carolina. It's just wild. I mean, it's just wild to think about that kind of shift. There was a time where we were getting rid of these tracks, not for intermediate ovals, but for these massive super speedways. But can you imagine the conversation that would have been going on when they built Talladega? Talladega opened, I didn't look this up, I'm just going off of memory. I'm going to say 1969 was the year that Talladega opened. Can you imagine someone saying, man, this sport is going downhill? They keep racing on all these paved ovals. Are you kidding me? That's not racing. That's not racing. I mean, you have guys like Richard Petty who are, like, man, yeah, I whooped rear end on the dirt, but man, we're becoming more sophisticated as a sport. Sick of running in the dirt. Let's race on some asphalt, But it's just kind of a weird concept to think about what they might have been, what the news might have been like then when they leave a track like Occoneechee for Talladega, and just the different skill sets and different drivers who are going to come onto the scene and succeed at a track that is still not just being raced at today, but is perhaps the most famous track in the world. I mean, you could talk about Indianapolis, you could talk about Daytona, but just for when you think of NASCAR and even what the movie Talladega Nights did for NASCAR, and you could say, man, it made a mockery of it. It did and it didn't, but at the same time, it did bring a lot of awareness. And a lot of people, when they think of NASCAR and peak NASCAR, they think of Talladega. I think they're onto something. That place is special. It is incredible. You've got to just see it for yourself to even believe it. And I mean, it is awesome. So yeah, I took it a little bit of a different route. Didn't talk as much about Talladega and talked a little bit more about Occoneechee. But gotta remember that part of the history of the sport at some point or another. It's really cool. If you're in Central North Carolina, let me give you a little bit more of a precise location for it. Let's see here. It's in Hillsborough, North Carolina. There you go. So if you're anywhere around Hillsborough, North Carolina, it's not far off of I-85, and you can go check it out, walk around. I mean, it's really peaceful. It's really beautiful. Allie and I we walked around it and enjoyed it. Great place to have a picnic. They got some tables there. You can have a seat, enjoy a picnic, walk the dog, whatever it is you want to do. It's a beautiful place to get outdoors and spend some time.
I was totally expecting us to go dogs with that, but he missed the.
I'll think I really don't feel like there's that much to really get into this week. We already have kind of talked about Talladega in the past. But yeah, Talladega, it's the largest oval that NASCAR runs on. It's massive. If you've ever been there in person, it's actually 2.66 miles. The Cup Series race, it's 500 miles, 188 laps. Also, just information, the next 3 races are going to be on NBC. They will not be on USA Network for the rest of the season. It's switching to NBC, which I think will help with views. But going into the Cup Series race, we have Byron, Elliott, Logano, and Blaney below the cut line coming into this. And wouldn't you have it, those 4 are some of the best plate track racers in NASCAR. Byron won the Daytona 500. Logano, always a contender, always up front at plate tracks. Blaney has a history of winning here at Talladega. Elliott, another guy that can do really well at plate tracks. So these guys are going to be, especially if you're Logano and Blaney come into this, you're swinging for the fences. So Keselowski is the winningest active driver at this track with 6 wins. Always a guy that you'll see up front, one of the hardest pushers according to the drivers. And as Kent said earlier, Ford just have a way with plate tracks. So the big thing to watch coming into this weekend is going to be, will there be a big one? And if so, how many of the 8 drivers in the playoffs will be impacted by this? That's going to be a problem. And then Xfinity Series coming into this round of 8, you got to keep an eye on guys like Sam Mayer and Justin Allgaier who have some momentum that they need to defend coming into this weekend. I think Xfinity races are some of the best when it comes to plate track racing. I think it's some of the most exciting. But obviously the favorites coming into this weekend are going to be the 2 RCR cars, Jesse Love and Austin Hill. Those 2 are going to be the favorites coming into the race this weekend. And then looking at the truck series as well, guys that are right on the cut line, Tyler Ankrum, Daniel Hamrick, and Raja are in some interesting positions. And so we have to watch out for them. And then, you got guys like Lane Riggs, Ty Majeski, Grant Enfinger, guys that you have to watch out for here as well. So super speedway weekends, you're not going to, rarely do you see dominance on a super speedway weekend. It's going to be 50 lead changes or even more by the end of the race. So that's going to be important. Strategy and survival are going to be just as big as having a fast car and being up front. Keeping your eyes on what contenders are aggressive early and look at those that are kind of waiting for the late shuffle to kind of happen. You have guys that will kind of hang out in the back, let the chaos kind of unfold, and then begin to work their way up to the field. Can't watch it. You got to watch out for spoilers as well. We mentioned earlier in the race, Justin Haley is a guy that knows how to race at plate tracks. You have a lot of guys that can play spoiler here. Ricky Stenhouse, another guy who has a history of winning at Talladega. What, Cole?
I remember last year how pissed you were that he won.
Yes, I was. Yeah. That's why I mentioned it. You got to watch out for old Ricky. Shut up. Yeah, he's a contender to come into this as well and win. He knows how to win. So yeah, just a lot of things to watch out for. It has the potential to set up a lot of drivers to be in a must-win situation for Martinsville next week. You think of it, like we mentioned earlier, William Byron, he's coming into this minus 15 coming into this weekend. If he doesn't have a good week, he wrecks out, gets caught up in the big one. That could really set himself up for put him in a must-win situation coming into Martinsville. Lots of chaos is going to unfold, I imagine. Cole, we're going to be managing several storylines coming into next week following the outcome of this race and just seeing the fallout of what happens.
For sure. And one thing it probably won't play as much as Impact as it usually does is the tire wear at Talladega. It's shown a little bit, especially with the age of the track now, but it's still a plate track ultimately, and you just don't see substantial tire wear, especially given something like a short track has a lot more wear. So they are actually using the same tire combination as they used in the previous Talladega race for Cup. So no big shocker there, and also at both Daytona races. So they're running pretty much the same tire for super speedways regardless. Xfinity Series will be using the same combination as they used in April Talladega. So the left sides will actually be the same as Daytona, while the right sides are the same at Atlanta. So they're kind of doing like a hybrid of those two tracks. And trucks, obviously, they did not race at Talladega in April, but they will be using the same tires that you would see at Daytona on the left side, and then right side tires that they used at Atlanta. So kind of Xfinity hybriding between the two different tires. And the fan aspect of Talladega, I talked a bunch about it last time that we talked about it. It's one of those tracks that if you've never been to it, it's one of those, especially if you live in America, it's definitely a must go to. It's definitely just pure atmosphere racetrack. It's definitely in the top 2. Between that and Darlington for me, Darlington was kind of lackluster this year compared, and it may have just been the section that we were sitting in because me and Austin and Blake were sitting all in the same section this year. But Talladega always brings the energy. Of course, that's usually because of just the tailgating, the camping crowd. There's just a lot of different factors that goes with that. There's a lot of hype, especially for the playoff race. The playoff race, there's just even more than normal energy. It's just absolutely phenomenal. It's just crazy to see, especially in person. Also, as a fan of country music or rock country music, I really wish I was there this year compared to when we went, because I believe when we went, Austin, they had a concert, and that concert wasn't it Hardy that was supposed to be there, and then Hardy got stuck in traffic for like 3 hours or something stupid. And they're having Whiskey Myers this time.
Man.
That's a phenomenal. If you've never listened to Whiskey Myers, I'm pretty sure they actually have a track on the NASCAR 25 for their soundtrack. Don't quote me on it, but I think they're on there somewhere. But phenomenal band. I highly recommend them. And it's a shame that they couldn't do that. I won't say much about Hardy. I think Hardy's a really good songwriter, but just the way that the music comes across is just not my favorite. It's not my favorite type of country music. I'm old school. I like me the Alan Jacksons, the George Straits. I'm a boomer when it comes to my country music. I'm just not like just overall boomer. I'm just boomer in certain sections, right? I mean, he's even got the goatee. It just works out perfect. He's got the Fu Manchu. He's trying
Just
to
because I
unmute.
can't get it to grow on the sides doesn't mean it's not there.
Dude, I can't get mine to stop growing. I think Austin's just got the straight up goatee. You got the Fu Manchu, and Austin's just got the goatee.
Austin's got the, he's the villain in Alvin and the Chipmunks goatee.
That is evil.
That's exactly. He just needs our glasses, and maybe a bald head. I don't know, but he's got it going on. He's got it going on for sure.
I can't get this to connect to this, so
You just gotta shave the rest and just go soul patch.
yeah.
You can just go all Tony Morita,
Yeah, I could.
Or you could grow one, like just a long one, and then tie it in a little knot, and then put like a little band around it, like some people do. Like a ponytail, but for your beard. Oh my goodness. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a great race. I'm sure they're going to milk it for all it's worth, 100%. And yeah, it's going to be phenomenal. Alrighty. Spicy takes, am I right? That's a phenomenal segment that we do every week, and none of us obviously hit ours. We're really terrible at this. I don't know why we do. We should probably just stick to the yearly hot takes and not just the weekly at this point.
Hey, I nailed my yearly, so
It's true. You 1 for 100 is not too terribly bad, buddy. Alrighty. Well, Blake said that Leg was going to get a top 5, which we made that for him. He obviously didn't get it. Austin said Reddick was going to get the win. It was competitive for majority of the race.
for a minute we thought.
He looked good in that car. That car was a phenomenal paint scheme. Love that Jordan brand. I said that Noah G was going to get a top 10. I don't think he accomplished that
I think
with
he
this
sniffed
race.
the top 10.
He was pretty close at one point. And Kent said Larson was going to fit outside the top 10. Obviously, that didn't happen. It looked like Larson was probably going to win the race till Denny Hamlin just came out of nowhere, RKO'd Larson. So, like I said, none of us hit ours. Fantastic. Blake sent me his, and I told Austin that I wouldn't tell him what it was till the time of. He says that Matty D, he said, book it now. Matty D is going in the 7 car for Spire next year.
Austin, I think you froze.
I'm pretty sure I see him laughing in the pixelation.
Okay, interesting.
Honestly, I could see it. I don't think that's. I mean, it's a hot take for sure, but I don't think that's as far fetched as one might think.
In a world that Daniel Suarez exists, it kind of is.
And Harrison Burton.
How confident are you that old Danny ends up in the 7 though?
I'd say 90% for sure.
I'd say 95.
Where's Haley going? Is he going to go down?
Oh, for sure. I don't see another. I hope so. I don't see another cup ride opening up. It's like me and Austin were talking about earlier. I said there's not enough seats for those butts at this point. That's kind of the point NASCAR's gotten in. I mean, you got another charter opening up for Legacy, but That's kind of Toyota-esque, and we kind of know where those drivers are going to go. So
that would be cool. That'd be really cool. But I think it's much more realistic that he would end up somewhere. I don't know. I could see in all reality, I could see Matty D ending up in a part-time gig at Gibbs in the Xfinity Series.
it's possible. I just don't know if he brings enough sponsorship, because Eric Almirola's brought a ton of sponsorship with Young Life.
But even with the deal that Trevor Bayne was able to put together, I feel like Matty D could get as much sponsorship as Trevor Bayne. I think he could have a 5 to 10 race deal. Nothing extravagant, but I could see him saying it's worth stepping away because when you think about Matty D, if he had that kind of a deal where he could run 7 races in a 19 car at Joe Gibbs in the Xfinity Series for 2026, he'd at least be able to say, here's what I can do in really good equipment. And if he goes out there and wins 2 races, then all of a sudden he's a hot commodity. But, I don't know.
Yeah, I think we didn't really talk about this portion of it, but especially I consider Matty D a really good road course racer for the most part in his career, especially in the Xfinity Series. But every single road course car Vikings brought to a road course race this year, it's either exploded or blew up or it's always broke. So yeah, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but hey, man, that's definitely a spicy take from Blake. And it gave us plenty of time to think of ours, so I'm going to throw it to Austin here in the middle, since he's been thinking about it the entire time.
SVG gets a top 10.
He about got one last week.
This is a plate track, so
well,
it's a little different.
yeah. It's an oval, technically. I was hoping he finished in the top 10. We were all laughing. We're like, Kent's day is going to be absolutely ruined. Byron wrecks, Logano wins the race, and SVG gets the top 10. He won't know what to do with himself.
I wouldn't be on.
He'd be flying out the window. Shout out to our New Zealand and Aussie fan base, by the way. You guys rock. Appreciate y'all listening. Y'all are killing our YouTube. We had 80 listenings on our YouTube, and most of them are like Kiwi based, I'm pretty sure. So
thanks to the Kiwis and the Aussies.
Yeah, we appreciate y'all. Yeah, Mr. Kent, what's your spicy take, buddy?
This might be too spicy. Give me Cody Weir in the top 10.
He about won the dang
He about won Daytona.
Atlanta.
He ran high.
Daytona or Atlanta, yeah.
I won't say he backs that up with a top 10, and I won't say he backs that up with a top 10 at Dega.
Okay, I like it. I don't know if it's really necessarily hot, but at this point of the year, I'll consider it. I say Carson Hocevar goes ahead and just knocks out that first win, and we see him win at Talladega. So
bet on anyone winning or to name an outright winner of this race is a hot take. I don't care who you're picking. So yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool.
I think that he had success in Atlanta early in the year. It's been a little bit of cool, especially given, the road courses and everything that's been going on. But it'd be nice to end his year on. I definitely see his trajectory right now getting a win for Ty Gibbs does at this current point, just based upon solely performance. But we'll see what happens. It'd be cool. It'd be a new Chevy in Victory Lane compared to a Ford, a little diversity. And then you got a really interesting battle at Martinsville, because you got couple of guys that are going to point in, and you're going to have one guy that wins that could possibly, win and get in. It could be, Logano or Blaney. It's on the very bottom. Just leapfrog everybody. But yeah, that's our spicy take segment this week. And yeah, I'm hoping one of us hits ours. Woohoo! All right. So Austin, go ahead.
All right, so it's time for our Pick'em series brought to you by Glowing Glove. This week, we have all 3 series to pick from. We did not pick trucks this past week, because they were off. The last time we picked them was Roval. Cole came in first. Blake came in second. I came in third. Kent came in last. Kent, my friend, you go first for trucks, and you cannot duplicate your picks. You cannot pick Daniel Hamrick, Chandler Smith, or Parker Kligerman.
Give me Parker Kligerman. Yes.
I will take LaJoy.
Let's see. I'm next. I cannot pick Enfinger, Riggs, or Zillett. Give me Kligerman. This is like a Hail Mary for me. Because, well, actually, no, I'm close in trucks. Xfinity, I'm
No,
starting
if
to
there's
lose.
any Hail Mary, it's for me, buddy, in the truck series. I'm pretty sure I'm mathematically eliminated at this point in the
Who's
truck
leading the
series.
truck series?
I think
Blake by
Blake
1
was.
point.
Yeah.
Over me?
Yes.
Okay.
So Blake is next. He can't pick Chandler Smith, Heim, or Gio. Who did he pick? Cole.
Daniel Hemrick.
Okay. And Cole, my friend, you cannot pick Riggs, Eckes, or Heim.
Give me Raja.
Karoo.
Raja Karoof.
First time Raja's been picked this year.
I think you've picked Raja once.
I think I did.
Yep.
Yeah, I think
It
I
definitely
did.
wasn't at Las Vegas, though, when he won.
Fortunately.
No one, I don't think any of us predicted that week.
All right. So point standings, Blake is in the lead with 58. Kent is second with 57. I'm third with 55. And Cole is in last with 49. Not sure if he's mathematically eliminated, but it kind of feels like it right now.
I got the 10 points for the championship still. Hemrick's
You
still
could,
in.
yes. Yep, that's right. I forgot. Although it
Who
looks
was
like
my
Heim
championship pick? Who was my championship pick?
Enfinger.
Rip.
Okay. Dang.
All right. So
Dang. Okay. Sorry. Dang.
Dang,
Dang.
Broken record. I can't believe. What was I
some
thinking?
Boomhauer energy over here today.
So Xfinity, Blake got the win this week with Almirola. I came in second with Zilich. Cole came in third with Allgaier, and then Kent picked Creed, who had an unfortunate incident in the race, and put him in last. So Kent has the first pick for Dega for Xfinity. And who are you picking, Kent? You cannot pick Love, Hill, or Creed. Let me repeat that. Love, Hill, Creed.
Right. I'm going to go Sammy Smith.
Sammy Smith. All right, Coleman, you are next. You cannot pick Creed, Zilich, or Allgaier.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I didn't think I was going to be able to get Love, so I guess I'll take him. I didn't realize that Kent couldn't pick him. But
Yep.
I had someone in mind that I was going to pick, though. But now that I know Love's available, I'm like, given that he has the best statistics right now, probably going to go with him.
For me, I cannot pick Brandon Jones, Austin Hill, or Zilich. So give me Jeb Burton.
That's the guy I was going to pick if I didn't have Loves.
I got to be in victory lane when he won there last time.
All right, and then Balaco, he cannot pick Allgaier, Mayer, or Almirola.
He'll be taking the cousin, Harrison Burton.
All right, and so for the points, it's really tight. It's going to come down to the last race. Blake is in the lead with 71 points. Kent and Cole are tied with 70, and then I'm sitting last with 68, but well within striking distance. Blake does not have his championship pick for the Xfinity Series. Austin Hill has been eliminated, but Allgaier remains for me, Zilich remains for Cole, and Love remains for Kent. Looking at Cup this week, heartbreaker for me, coming in last with Byron getting into the back of Ty Dillon there, put me in last. Kent came third with Chase Elliott finishing 18th, which was kind of a disappointment because Elliott ran well for most of the day. Cole came in second with Bell finishing third, and then Blake came in first with Hamlin getting the win. So I picked first this week. I cannot pick Jones, I can't pick Ty Gibbs, and I can't pick William Byron. So looking at this week,
I mean, this is an impossible task to predict Talladega, you know?
Man, who would have
Yeah.
predicted Ricky Stenhouse won last year? Like, straight up. When Brad Keselowski's right there at the line with him.
I mean, I might regret it, but I might go Chase Elliott.
He's in my top two. He's my top two.
Chase is really good there, has a history of performing there well across all gens, really. But the last 22 races, he has like 11 top 10s. So, you think Blaney, but it's like you got Martinsville coming up next week. Joey Logano is a possibility there as well. It just kind of depends on how things shake out, but it's a crapshoot at best.
And you can't forget Cindric either. Cindric's great at Talladega as well.
Yeah, I know. Kent, my friend, you are next. You can't pick Hamlin, Larson, or Elliott this week. Who are you leaning towards for Dega?
I have some drivers I want to save for the next couple of weeks, so I might end up going the route of someone like Austin Cindric.
I think he got a stage last year at Talladega, so it might be good to get some stage points.
Don't want to bank on stage points.
No, but he could very well be in the mix with some Fords there at the end, and we know his tendency to not necessarily stick with his teammate, but try to take the win himself. I don't know. I could see him being in a good position at the end to try to make a move to win a race. So, I don't know. We'll see.
Let's see. Cole, my friend, you are next. You cannot pick Larson, SVG, or Bell coming into this weekend. Who are you looking at?
Probably looking at that redemption story. Probably looking at Willie B this week. Given that he's top statistic, I think, at Talladega. And Martinsville, I don't think he's really that great. I mean, last year, remember, he was struggling. He had that blockade behind him. I think he's probably the weakest Hendrick driver at Martinsville, personally.
Okay. And then Balaco, he cannot pick Briscoe, Reddick, or Hamlin. Who does he have for Dega, Cole?
Ricky Stenhouse.
Recky. He's thinking Recky. Can't hate that. I mean, Ricky is notorious for being good at plate tracks when you least expect it, and won there last fall, so you can't count him out. Looking at the points, I'm still in the lead with 94 points. Blake and Cole are catching up. Blake has 91. Cole has 90. Kent has 88. The issue for Blake is he does not have the opportunity to win those extra 10 points. Tyler Reddick is out of the playoffs. And now Cole's driver, Ryan Blaney, is in biggest danger.
I'm in danger.
I'm in danger. He's in the biggest danger going into this weekend, the biggest negative in the points. So Blaney really needs a good week or even a win coming into this. If not here, then at Martinsville next week. Blake does not have that 10-point chance, so he will have to win out solely on performing well and hoping that one of the three drivers remaining, Larson, Blaney, or Bell, does not win the championship. So that is it for our Pick'em series this weekend, and then we will gather together next week to talk about the last race before the Final Four.
Yep, and I believe I'll be there for the Cup race. I don't know about the rest of the races. I'm still trying to decide because, I mean, I'm getting old, guys. Going all these races. I mean, if I go just to the fall race for Cup, I will be at 20 races this year. I've attended a lot, so. But Martinsville is always fun, and especially I'm really optimistic about it given how Bristol turned out. Everybody thought Bristol was going to be a terrible race, the night race, and it turned out to be a pretty good race. Wilkesboro was good, but it's definitely the short tracks are looking great. Given that Martinsville last year was probably the best short track that I've seen as a next-gen car at that point. Very optimistic about that race. Yep, that's us for this week. Make sure to check us out on the socials at 4WidePod, FOURWIDEPOD. Maybe we'll get back to posting stuff this week. Who knows? I'm still working on a little bit of a post. Said I was going to post it last week, but I wanted to take a little extra time to get it just right. But yeah, we'll get going on that, and y'all take care. Y'all eat y'all's Wheaties, and we will see you after this week at Talladega. See you guys.